We about to go live.
Safe word, not catch.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up, and we are. Meeting is now streaming live on the custom live streaming. Yeah.
You laugh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So we back again. Make sure everything is in order and in check. We back again here today with another episode of Eavesdrop from yours truly, the Black Anglo-Saxon, Devon Lassine, Quan the Poet.
Yo.
What it do? We in here today and we are going to be talking about Biden's infrastructure plan. I watched the speech, read some articles, got some opinions. Hopefully y'all got some opinions. Again, few house cleaning things. Please, please, please. Pretty please. Go over to the YouTube. The YouTube is where you can engage the best in terms of our content. Please hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe, follow, depending on which platform you're coming to us on. The subscribe button, hit that on our YouTube so you can get all of the videos, even the ones that aren't our live streams, which you have Sage Talk and 10-minute drill. 10-minute drill is just basically me going off the rip, no script. So please go ahead, do that. Then also go over and head over to the gildedsages.com where you can find services where if you need somebody to, or me, to do graphic design, I'm here for that as well. And then also just check out our other content, Death of a Nigga Boy, and then forums that we'll be having moving forward in terms of conversations that we would like to have throughout the community that may find itself being blocked on Facebook or Twitter. So
just got out of jail last week.
Man.
Facebook jail.
Facebook jail is a thing. And so help us do that. Please, pretty please. Like the video, share the video, leave a comment. We're going to be talking about Biden's infrastructure today. It is what it is. So without further ado, what we're going to go ahead and get into, or I'm going to just kind of lay out nicely for everybody, is, as we all know, everybody is talking about basically the infrastructure plan that is slated to be the next quote unquote FDR once in a generation plan that the Biden administration is supposed to be putting out and to address infrastructural needs, monies to the elderly, and a lot of different other things. We're going to get into it, as y'all know, with a few articles. So bear with us. And I do articles because, again, I don't like to just be talking off the side of my neck. I want to be able to provide things and information that people can go back to, cite, and then also start and further research on their own. So that's why I do that in that particular way in terms of, having articles, because I don't just want to talk off the top of my head in terms of my opinions. I have my opinions, but I think we need to move away from just opinions. I think that's a very toxic place to be in. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open up on the first article, which is going to be from USA Today. Oh no, this is the wrong one. My apologies, beautiful people. Again, go over to the actual YouTube, and you can be able to follow us in a very, very different way, so that you can see all of the actual articles that we are bringing up. You can see the charts, you can see the information as we're talking along, so that way you can stay engaged. So this is from the actual USA Today news. Joe Biden wants to spend $2 trillion on infrastructure and jobs.
Whew.
These four charts show where the money would go. The plan includes everything from road repairs, electric vehicle stations, to public school upgrades and training for clean energy workforce. Because we got a lot for y'all today, I'm gonna just go ahead down to what's in the Biden's plan. The plan, the centerpiece of Biden's economic agenda, will next need to pass Congress, where Republicans are already lining up against it. We're gonna get into that later. According to the White House, the plan is divided across four main areas. Here's how the money would be spent. So you see that little airplane, little train, little car, that's transportation. Then you got this little quality of life at home thing. They got a nice little key. Then you got help for caregivers. Then you got down here research, development, and manufacturing. As we get down into it. So transportation infrastructure is 621 billion. That's a huge number. The plan will make a massive investment in America's roadways, railways, and bridges with the focus on clean energy. I wanted to focus on quality of life at home because I think that was the most important thing in terms of what the average everyday person needs. I understand that railroads, transportation, infrastructure are perfectly fine. I'm not against those type of improvements, but when I hear once in a generation investment, and I'm gonna get to his speech as I watched it in entirety for the second time, and it was greatly boring, greatly upsetting, greatly disappointing. But once in a lifetime generation, I don't think that that's what this bill is in terms of how it's being structured. And so if you watch this chart, look at this chart above, you have electric vehicles, including a network of 500,000 EV stations, Amtrak repairs back and improvements, that's 80 billion, modernized bridges, highways, roads, 115 billion. I'm all happy for it, but that shit should have been done.
Yeah.
It's 2021. Look, you was the VP under Obama. That shit should have been done. Infrastructure resiliency to withstand climate-related disasters, 50 billion. I think that number should be higher, given the consideration that we are in a highly volatile climate situation.
Yeah.
So 50 billion is a lot to individuals, but collective to a whole nation, 50 billion isn't anything. So then you got miscellaneous projects. That's niggas getting money in their own pocket. Upgrade reports, improve in road safety, connect neighborhoods historically cut off by investments, 20 billion. That should be more, because that sounds like redlining and all the other things that pertains to Jim Crow. We'll have a whole nother conversation about that. Modernized public transit, doubling federal public funding. So quality of life, the largest part of the plan focused on American homes, school buildings, underground water infrastructure, and broadband inspection. The plan would spend 213 billion to build, preserve, and retrofit more than 2 million affordable homes and commercial buildings. This includes the construction or rehabilitation of 500,000 homes for low and middle income owners. An additional 111 billion will go toward clean drinking water, including replacement of all lead pipe service lines. The plan sets aside 100 billion for constructing and modernizing public schools, while another 100 billion will be used to build high-speed broadband networks throughout the country. The goal for the broadband to become the universal Americans for all Americans and drive down the cost of internet. I agree with that. That's good, because internet is a utility these days, and so people should definitely be getting.
And it's a big deficit in the Midwest, especially where they struggle the most with connectivity. So, and
I can see that. The plan calls for 40 billion to improve public housing, 18 million for veteran affairs, hospitals and clinics, 12 billion for community college infrastructure, and 16 million to plug oil and gas wells and reclaim abandoned mines. As you see down here, the breakdown retrofit That's 213 billion. The high speed broadband, 100 billion. Upgrade to public schools, 100 billion. And let me stop right there for a quick hot second. Bro, we done already went through modernization of schools. I'm not trying to be here and spend money on another set of modernization of schools without the attempt to increase the level of education and also restructure how we do testing, how we do curriculum, and so on, etc. I think it's lazy that we keep going back to modernizing schools and modernize this and modernize that, but we don't change the infrastructure or we don't change the systemic nature of how these institutions work. That is always interesting to me. But let me finish up on it. You know what? That one is finished because I think I only wanted to talk about the caregivers for elderly and people with disabilities. BAT wants to pump $400 billion to improve access to quality, affordable home or community-based care for the elderly and people with disabilities. It would expand the Medicaid program to make more services available and eliminate a backlog that prevents thousands from getting care. It would also boost pay for care workers who disproportionately women of color and typically earn about $12 an hour. So before I go ahead and dig into that conversation, man, what do you think about how the money was distributed over the different buckets, whether it be infrastructure, roads, railways, whether it be broadband, whether it be uplifting seniors and people with disabilities? What did you think about the information presented in an overall plan to address poverty?
So when I had posted to our Instagram, I said, was it capitalism or good policy? And for me, I think this falls under the capitalism, to be honest with you, because like I said, I've been in the mode of just going back to all the major legislations. And this feels a whole lot like the Telecommunications Act of 96, where we expanded all of these things with broadband, and we promised that schools would benefit, and we promised that, you know, we would have oversights of corporations and all of these things. By the way, we will be talking about that on Sage Talk in the near future. Be on the lookout for that. But it's a lot of promises to do things. And one of the key components that I'm honing in on is the fact that this seems very corporate driven when you actually read the article, when in reality, the biggest people who are hit the hardest through this outside of regular people were small businesses. So what I wanted to see was a commitment to small businesses being the ones who carried the load of carrying out this plan. But what it looks like is we're just going to cut taxes and give you the contracts to supplement your losses on the tax end, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what I got from it. And after watching his speech, you know, he talked a lot about the 200 million vaccinations, which is here nor there. You know, it is what it is. I appreciate everybody getting vaccinated. If you don't want to take the vaccine, that's cool too. But at the same time, I don't think touting that as a, you know, achievement is something that is very admirable. Then he talked about chopping poverty in half through this bill. Nothing that I saw, and we're gonna go over the summary of what the bill was, which is from let me give y'all the actual name of the firm that it came from, because I know y'all don't be wanting to listen to me. So it's H&K, Holland and Knight. They did a actual topic on it. And so what I'm going to do is, while I talk about this a little bit, because I agree with you 100% in that it doesn't speak enough to the actual people and the investment in people and human capital as it relates to having to have an environment where people can participate in the infrastructure developments. Because right now we're in a situation where, okay, you do all of this, but the way the economy is shaped out and the way everything is set up when it comes to evictions and moratoriums being lifted, there's a lot of people who, especially African Americans, ADOS, and a lot of other underserved communities, will not be able to survive and thrive or thrive in this environment. So when I hear modernization of schools, I see modernization of schools all the time, all around me currently. It's not increasing any number in terms of people's graduation rates, the literacy rates. It's not increasing any of that. Mm-hmm. So it's not really any benefit as of to me. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring up and share the screen again. If you're watching this through IG, head over to the YouTube or head over to the Facebook so you can get the link if you want to call in. But then also follow the actual conversation with all of the articles and stuff like that, so you can be informed. You can take it, you can drop it. We'll put it in the actual thread once we get done. And so, as y'all see, this is American Jobs Plan Act of 2021. Those are the authors. President Joe Biden on March 31st, 2020, introduced American Jobs Plan of 2021. Boom, we're going to skip down. Again, we talked about the bridge, the highways. You got $621 billion going to that. Then you got public transit, modern public transit. That's $85 billion to modernize existing transit and help agencies expand their systems to meet rider demand. Ports, waterways, and airports. That's $25 billion. And again, y'all can see the breakdowns when y'all download the PDF, please. If you want to just go ahead and look through to see what your friendly neighborhood government is putting out here in these streets. And so rail and freight, that's $80 billion. That includes funding for addressing Amtrak's repair backlog, modernizing the high traffic Northeast corridor, improving existing corridors, and connect new city pairs. Then you move down, electric cars, $174 billion investment in the EV market, enable automakers to spur domestic supply chains, and that's the electric vehicle. Then you got clean water. No, we ain't even gonna talk about Flint. This shit is sad. Clean water replaced 100% of the nation's lead pipes and service lines, $45 billion in EPA's drinking water state revolving fund and water infrastructure improvements for the nation act, with the goal to eliminate all lead pipes and service lines in the country. And again, Biden was Obama's VP. A lot of shit should have been cleaned up, bro.
Especially when you let the president sip the water in front of the world and convinced them that it was clean.
So then you got retrofitting homes. That's $213 billion. Construction and preservation of affordable housing, $40 billion for the public housing capital backlog, $20 billion in new federal tax credits to spur the construction and rehabilitation of 500,000 homes for low and middle income buyers. Creation of new competitive grant programs to induce state and local governments to pare back costly zoning and land use policies. The $40 billion to public housing capital backlog. Let me just stop there. That needs to be address the backlog, but also let's address the constraints around home buying in our current time. that has nothing to do with, as this thing says, tax credits. Yes, that is beneficial in terms of tax credits, whether you're owning a property, whether you're owning a business, whether you're married or whatever. Those things are good. But let's address the actual finite capital that people have this day in time. And let's put people in a position to be able to access that without already, because from what I read, you already have to have some level of stability. Everybody is not coming into this with a level of stability. So if you don't get some of the benefits. And what I'm gonna go ahead and move down. You got the workforce development. No, I'm gonna share this one because I highlighted this, and I want y'all to see what I'm seeing. So, which one is it? What you think about this, man? So I got the workforce development up. It's 100 billion, and that's not even the highest number. And when we talk about, again, the actual position that we're in and the actual position that people are in, I think the invest in workforce development should be the 625 billion, because this 100 billion investment goes to 40 billion in a new dislocated workers program and sector-based training with a specific focus on high demand. Then you got 12 billion for workforce development targeting underserved communities. That's everybody but cis white men, realistically speaking. So that 12 billion is spread across white women, LGBT white men, Black women, Latino women, Hispanic, all. And so I think that number needs to be super, super way larger when you're talking about addressing it across all different spectrums. Investment in job training for formerly incarcerated individuals and justice-involved youth. I think that should be specifically for African Americans, to be honest, because nobody has the incarceration numbers that we do. Eliminate sub-minimum wage provisions in the Fair Labor Standards Act to expand the access to fair wages. I agree with that 100%. 48 billion in investment for American workforce development and worker protection, including registered apprenticeships. I think that number needs to be a lot higher.
Yes.
Because I particularly do not support free internships. I know a lot of people would say that, oh, it's the experience. Oh, you know what? It's a great thing to be able to be paid by, likes and all that other stuff, or things that don't amount into actual tangible resources. I'm not here for it. Pay people for their services and their time, no matter what age. Can you decrease that number in terms of what you're offering people based on the fact that it's an apprenticeship or et cetera? Absolutely. It could be in a form of a $300, $400 stipend. That's fine, but you need to be accommodating people in some type of way.
Yes, I do agree.
And then it says create good jobs. President Biden is calling for investments tied to project labor, community workforce, local hire, registered apprenticeships, and other labor or labor management training programs. Modernize schools, learning facilities. Again, 100 billion to upgrade all of these different things. 50 billion in direct grants, 50 billion leverage through bonds. If you are in that arena, please look out, go get the grants. I'm all happy for you, but that number needs to be cut. Do the 50 billion in grants, but all of this other building out schools when you aren't addressing the curriculum that stunts people's growth is pointless.
Pretty much.
And let me go down to the last one that the Made in America tax plan, which increases the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%, because we're going to get into that later about the bum Joe Manchin. President Joe Manchin, because apparently he got all of the clout in the world. He out here calling the shots. I keep hearing his name like he the president. Like
it's a lot of
President Biden don't set the
who names. Shoot. Everybody said your boy from Kentucky was the president the last 2 terms. Hey, it is what it is, baby.
It is what it is. But they got the global intangible low tax income, which is the GILTI regime, to increase global maximum tax to 21% on a country by country basis, while also eliminating a rule allowing to the exemption of first 10% to foreign investments. And the GILTI is, so that y'all know, that's a tax. Let me get the acronym. I don't want to mess nothing up and get nothing wrong. But it has to do with the global, how companies create foreign subsidies. And so what is the global income eligible tax and how is it taxed? The G1 is the income earned by foreign affiliates of U.S. companies from tangible assets such as patents, trademarks, and copyrights. The Tax Cuts and Job Act imposes a new minimum tax on the GLTI. And so again, that is global intangible low taxed income. And so with all that being said, man, we talking a lot. What I'm gonna go ahead and get into next, so we can have a quick conversation, is a article from the New York Times, again, about Biden's $2 trillion plan to rebuild infrastructure and reshape the economy, which I think is very lackluster. I think the $15 minimum wage was left out of it. I think reparations was left out of it. Mm-hmm. I think Medicare for all was left out of it. And, I listened to his speech earlier, which was garbage. And he talked about, if we act now, and if we do all of these things now, 50 years later, people are going to be talking about, oh my God, we made the right decision and we got ahead of it.
What?
Yeah, this is lackluster. Because it's like, for me, if we act now on reparations, minimum wage, and healthcare in that order, we will look back 50 years and say the policy was a win.
What is he supposed to be, Martin Luther Biden?
It's supposed to be a fake FDR. That's what everybody's saying he is. I don't see it.
No, man.
Because he touted in the speech a lot about World War II, the greatest once-in-a-generation investment since World War II. Again, I think he was hitting at the Great Depression and all of the things that was happening around that time. But again, even when you talk about FDR and when you talk about, Social Security, the unemployment, the social safety nets, the safety nets that we have in place now are not being expanded upon. This man hasn't even addressed the moratoriums or the evictions, along with the people who aren't necessarily able to access all of these things. He hasn't addressed the African American community. There's been executive orders for every other community as I've seen thus far, whether it be Latinos, Asian, Pacific Islanders, the Native American community. There's been a lot of different communities that has been addressed specifically. But this chopping poverty in half thing is a joke. Is a joke. Because the stimulus, which came late, was already lackluster. And then you cut people out on top of cutting people out is the whole means testing. It got to be up. You got to make up to this amount or less than this amount. You cut people out when you didn't take into consideration that a person making $85,000, $90,000 who comes from the African American ADOS community or an underserved community, in your own words, that may have to take care of other people and people who have collapsed in their community economically. Mm-hmm. You didn't do any of that. So this whole reshape the economy, fake FDR stuff is a joke, man. And I wish everybody who is Democrat did all that talking about how people was caping for Trump, which I agree with, but now we sitting out here caping and bowing and topping off in the same fashion when we know it's a joke. So yeah, there are some good things, but we're going to get into Joe Manchin later. We're going to get into that and how they could overly capitulate to fucking Republicans. I'm not with this purple wave, and we're going to talk about that later, man. That shit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So what I'm going to go ahead and do is bring up this New York Times article. This is Biden details $2 trillion plan to rebuild infrastructure and reshape the economy. It's from the New York Times. We're going to jump down right into it. Let's see. So the cost will be offset by increased corporate tax revenues raised over 15 years, particularly from multinationals that earn and book profits overseas. That's what we was talking about with that crazy acronym. Can't even remember it. But it's a low income. It's a low income tax. But that's what we was talking about over that 15 years. That, along with taxing the wealthy, quote unquote, is supposed to bring us there. The president cast those increases as a means to prod companies into investing and producing more in the United States. I'm all for that. Officials said that if approved, the spending would end decades of stagnation in federal investment in research and infrastructure and will return government investment in those areas as a share of the economy to its highest levels since the 1960s. As we move down, Republicans and business groups criticized those tax proposals, calling them non-starters for bipartisan negotiations. Mr. Biden acknowledged the criticism, even as he defended asking companies to pay more in taxes, and he said he can come to continue to work on winning Republican support for his proposal. Mr. Biden, as we move down further, will also add new maximum tax to global income of the largest multinationals, and he will ramp up enforcement efforts by the IRS, Internal Revenue Service, against large companies that evade taxes. Mr. Biden said on Wednesday that his proposed tax changes, global income will raise $1 trillion over 15 years. So you sent me a little something. What you think on that?
So for me, if you could go back to that one highlight, I believe it's on the first page, the one you said you agreed to.
Mm-hmm. The president cast those increases as a means to prod companies into investing and producing more in the United States. The cost will be offset by increased corporate tax revenues over 15 years.
And see, that's the whole game right there.
Mm-hmm.
They just put it out there in plain black and white sight. This has nothing to do with people. This has nothing to do with anything substantial for Americans. It's pretty much, for me, when I look at that, it's a play for multinational corporations to get government contracts to come back to America, because they have been aiding and abetting pretty much the rise of China. You could literally create a timeline of a lot of these corporations who have been investing buku dollars overseas and building up Chinese infrastructure, building up Indian infrastructure, they have been building up all of these different corporations. And what happens is that because they're in so many nations, they can't be taxed properly by any of them because their goods get sold from different companies that are based in different countries. Mm-hmm. So you can't get a precise dollar amount for the tax base to come from because it's business being done on so many different companies. So when I see all of these things, it's like, yay, you building railroads, but you want big corporations to be in charge of everything as far as the building of the railroads, the building of the streets. So pretty much you don't want anyone else to be a part of this building of America. That's what I pretty much get from that. Because, okay, you're slashing their taxes, which is kudos. But if you're going to give them all of the contracts, if you're not going to set aside anything for any business that's smaller than a corporation who's been hit the hardest outside of normal people due to the pandemic, then what are we really talking about? Because you slashing their profits on one end, but you giving it back to them in contracts.
Yeah, and I think that's what was the most interesting part for me, because again, it didn't speak to direct investments in the average person, and so I see this circular door, and what happens is even when they talk about, you know, Republicans and business groups criticize the proposals, what we always talk about here is how the GOP serves the wealthiest of the wealthy, and then the Democrats also, because you need donations and all of those type of funding sources. You don't have to appeal to business, because I saw that Jeff Bezos had came out and backed the plan, which is why I'm going to have to do a little bit more digging and a little bit more, because I just don't see Jeff Bezos naturally coming out to support something that he can't necessarily benefit from, just because that's how businessmen think. Not even that he's a bad person, but business people aren't usually open to that. And Amazon, to be on record, is a company that has been called out for lying, undermining labor, unions, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's what I was about to get to. They're going through a lot with unionization. So it would be in their best interest, corporate-wise, to get on board with some of the more progressive things, just to get that heat.
But that's the thing.
Off of them.
It's just up front, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's just up front. You doing it up front. That's cool, fine and dandy. But I think what people need to understand is like, yeah, you saying it up front, but behind closed doors, you still moving like a savage.
Of course. But, you know, you got to give the people cake. Let them eat their cake.
You're right. I'm slapping the cake on the floor.
Exactly.
No,
give me some protein. Something I can
sustain and survive on, because this is not it. But what we're gonna do, the last part of the conversation that I wanted to bring up was about your boy Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin has been, you know, in the news a lot for being President Manchin. And overstepping and sabotaging, whether it be the $15 minimum wage, whether it be America's Rescue Plan, the stimulus, all of those things.
Real.
Look, I ain't saying he's set tripping, because again, as a leader, Joe Biden is supposed to come in and say, it is what it is.
Well, yeah.
So I'm coming into it like, nah, you using him as a cover-up and a co-op.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, nah. Yeah. But Joe Manchin, we talking about the filibuster now. Because the whole talk is about how the filibuster will save all of this and prevent all of that. But let me read it first. Manchin wrote, there's no circumstance in which I will vote or eliminate and weaken the filibuster. He also said everyone should be alarmed at how the budget reconciliation process is being used by both parties to stifle debate, adding that reconciliation should not replace regular order in the Senate. The time has come to end these political games, he added, and to usher in a new era of bipartisanship where we find common ground on the major policy debates facing our nation. What I'm going to say to that is, first off, I'm going to need people to grow a backbone because it shouldn't be a conversation. I'm tired of the whole, well, let's get rid of these Democrats or that Democrat or this Democrat. Man, look, we supposed to have leadership that set the tone. Mm-hmm. The reason that this man feel like he can do what he do is because we all know Joe Biden was a purple wave. Let's deal with the racist people.
The OG.
Let's capitulate to the other side. Fine. But as we were talking earlier, I particularly am indifferent about the filibuster. But you had some thoughts, and I would love for people to hear those thoughts in terms of how you feel about the filibuster.
So here's my thing. This is when we talk about reform.
Say it with your chest.
We gotta realize that you don't go about changing things by just removing it altogether. Like, people have to understand, okay, if we give you what you want and we remove the filibuster, now we will get all the progressive things that we want, right, as Democrats. But if there was a chance that a Republican president comes into office with no filibuster, understand what happens. Abortion, gone. Women's rights, gone. Medicaid for all, gone. These are things that are non-negotiable. So what you're creating is a situation where nothing is negotiable, and we're going to just pass the most extreme bills that we can once we get the power. And nobody can stop it because there's no check and balance. Like, that's government 101. You need your checks and balances so that people can't just become radical to the point where, okay, once we get into, like I read an article the other day. Mm-hmm. Mitch McConnell said, if you get rid of filibuster, I promise to get rid of abortion. That's the first thing gone once we get power. So if you're going to push for the filibuster to be done, you're also saying that pretty much there will be no more Republican Party. There will be no other Republican president ever. Because if that ever happens and there's no filibuster to check any of it, then all of your progressive bills and it's gone.
So, are you done?
Yes.
First off, I don't think progressive bills actually exist or get through even the Democratic Party.
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
I'm more so indifferent to the filibuster discussion because I don't think that either way, if you end it or don't, I think the Democrats are more like Republicans that people would like to believe. So I don't think that it will make that much of a difference. I do agree that we have to begin to have the discussions around actual policy. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that removing it or not removing it will make much of a difference. What I will say, though, is in not doing so, I think that the polarization of America is going to exist in its absolute because it was created and built on polarization. So a lot of these discussions around, oh, well, if America continues to be polarized, then it's going to tear itself apart. America was built on being apart. Blackness and whiteness is built on being apart. The GOP in itself is built on being a father organization to the Democratic Party as we know it today.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats do a lot of virtue signaling,
mm-hmm.
where Republicans give cold, harsh truth to what elitism is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of Democrats also agree, but understand their base. So when we talk about and had this discussion about, oh, well, if we end it, we'll get these huge rifts of back and forth, tit for tat, for lack of a better word, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we already have that. And the problem is Democrats, as we're talking about right now, Joe Biden, Joe Manchin, appealing and appeasing, we left out the other article, but appealing to the Republican Party. When we had the inauguration, we had a whole wave of Team Purple. We had Obama, Michelle Obama, everybody come out in these purple garments to symbolize that bipartisanship. We have Joe Biden talking about that bipartisanship. But what people don't talk about in that bipartisanship is that Democrats undermine their own bills before they even get to the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, the bills are already undermined as it relates to the people. So what good or what risk do you take to say, fuck it, end it, let's go? Let's go to war. Because in the end, the GOP is going to stifle and stop whatever they do. We already see that. They are great at that.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch McConnell is apparently the god of all gods.
Yeah,
he's the bad guy when Trump was in it. He's the bad guy now.
Yeah.
And now Joe Manchin, I guess, is the new kid on the block. So end it, don't end it. What?
So for me, when I look at it, I think that a lot of times what Democrats attempt to do is to bring about their most radical line of item.
So why is AOC always shitted on, even though she be carrying their water?
That's through their own party.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's like,
that's the most radical. Bernie Sanders is still a water carrying ass motherfucker.
Yeah, but like even with that bill, you put out a lot of the things that you already know are going to be shot down versus if you were to be already in the negotiation table. Like what happened to the committees that people used to use in order to bargain, like the Ways and Means and all of those different committees that you have within the Senate that are supposed to be doing the work of actually having the conversations and the discussions to harbor.
It's an echo chamber. So ain't nobody having no conversations that are adversarial to the party.
Like
in either party.
Well, people just got to become. What happened to you? Got to negotiate. Like, say what you wanted about Trump. I respected the fact that he always was able to tell people, hey, you have to negotiate. You have to go and you have to speak to what it is that you want, regardless of whatever the person's stance is. And what you have is you got people that's not willing to come to across the aisle. And we want to resort to tearing.
Why are we going across the aisle though?
Huh?
Why are we going across the aisle though?
That's politics.
So if I personally, if I was in a position of power, fuck the GOP.
I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna give you the bill how I want the bill, and I'm not compromising on the front end.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, like, look at how this throughout history. Look at how it's been done.
I'm just saying.
The only time, and to your credit, the only time you actually see bipartisanship is when it's time to punish us.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the inherent anti-blackness of America.
Exactly.
But at the same time, if I'm a Democrat, fuck the GOP and what they think about. Because when it comes down time to it, they don't be giving no fucks.
Of course.
What comments we got, man? Said a goddamn bipartisanship. I see some IG jumps, maybe, possibly. But that's crazy, man. No, I'm not here for no GOP. Fuck them. And I think too many people capitulate to them. Do we have any comments?
Not on the IG. Just a few people just following along. Thank y'all for following along with us, sticking with us. No comments so far, but hey, if anybody wants to chime in, definitely call in. The YouTube has the link. The Facebook has the link. Let us know what you think. You think we should get rid of the filibuster? Me personally, that's when I get into my little conservative qualm bag. I don't like getting rid of things unless there's
get rid of it
and replace it with what? Because I don't want for one party to come in and just be like, all right, let's run our bills now.
But who got the leverage?
Everything.
Who got the leverage?
What you mean?
Look, Democrats have ushered in Biden is talking about fast tracking 11 million non-citizens. They stacking the odds in their favor. Why not? End it. Look, if you want to drop your nuts, drop your nuts.
I mean, hey, yeah, but can you guarantee that you will always be in power?
That's the thing, though. See, and that's where it come back down to this bullshit ass infrastructure plan. Actually get the people what they want, and you wouldn't have to worry about that. But you talking about bridges, roads, and all of those other different things, which I agree with, but at the same time, nobody give a fuck. Can't nobody afford nothing right now.
Exactly.
So look, this is the thing. You do what you're supposed to do, and you're gonna have the power. You got black people on the hook, which I don't think we should, and I'm talking about African Americans. But again, they're gonna agree with you because they follow. Yeah. Then you get in line. The non-citizens, which will be citizens, they going to show their loyalty to you. Yeah. You got Latinos who don't. They going to fall in line. Yeah. Everybody going to fall in line.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have fast,
you fucking up your own midterms by doing this whole Team Purple shit.
Hey, and that's why I said this works if you plan on never losing. But if you lose and the Republicans get in, guess what? All your legislation gone.
But we don't have to lose.
Hey, if you can,
the GOP is at its weakest, to be honest.
You think so?
Hell yeah! Everything that they've done as of now, after Trump, they still have to deal with the Trump admin. That whole stench that's on them. The Democrats still have the power and narrative, and they bullshitting with it.
Oh yeah.
Because the GOP is cooked. The only thing they have, the only arm they have is through the Democratic Party. Fuck the GOP. Let them die.
Yeah. But I think,
we shooting ourselves in the foot.
They do shoot themselves in the foot. And like I said, they all biting from the same apple.
No, that's where, and that's where the hand is going to be shown. If they want to move forward, again, y'all capturing audiences, and you know how I don't necessarily agree with the fast tracking of 11 million non-citizens because you haven't even addressed all of the issues that America has in our own citizenship.
Oh, yeah.
So I only know you're going to fuck over the new people.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, if you want to double down on it, get the people what they want.
Yes.
Because right now, you fucking up. And if we fuck up these midterms and fuck up 4 years out, it's a wrap anyway, because you already capitulating to the other opposition.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
And guess what? When the GOP get in, they don't be caring.
Exactly. So why would you get rid of your own check and balance?
It ain't no check and balance, though. It's the check and balance on themselves.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying.
The filibuster is a check only on the Democrats. Because when it comes time for GOP to do what they do what they do. Dick out on the table.
But the Democrats don't use the filibuster like that.
That's my whole point.
Okay, I got you. I see what you're saying.
That's my whole point.
I see what you're saying now.
Biden be.
Yeah, they don't. And that's funny because they used to filibuster. Like that was a Democratic thing historically.
But historically, the Democratic Party was the Republican Party.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep.
Again, man, y'all can call in, give y'all thoughts, leave a comment, please like, share the video. I'm not a genius. We talking about this. We coming to the table. I think we should just say, look, I'm indifferent. I just want people in power to start dropping their nuts on the table.
Yeah,
and say it is what it is. Because I'm tired of the whole, well, let's build this bridge, extend this bridge, when the other side is like, nigga, fuck these bridges.
Yeah, show your hand.
But again, I said people was racist. I'm not taking it back like Kamala Harris. I still stand by that Joe Biden is a racist. I still stand by it that he's an elitist. Point blank, period. Everybody in the party can fake and do the whole, oh my God, you can't say this about that. Because the same way that y'all shitted on the GOP, we doing this. A lot of people in the Democratic Party doing the same thing right now. Exactly. And they know that it's wrong. Exactly. And it's sad that nobody is going to have the gumption over the next 4 years to call it out. Yeah. And I can't wait until if that does happen, because the regime will shift, because the average person is like, I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah. And it's crazy because they backdooring your boy Cuomo.
But that's a whole nother conversation. But what? Because that's a whole nother. He went
next week.
Maybe not next week, but we can maybe do a sage talk about response, because he been in the front page a lot.
Got you.
So with that being said, like we could definitely have that conversation, because everybody was sucking off Cuomo like, oh, he's the greatest, again, because Trump was an easy target, but he also was trash, as we all know, or I knew, because that's why I wasn't tweeting and posting none of that nonsense. He's garbage. But the thing is, bro, you end it, you don't end it, you still don't have a leverage. You might as well drop it all and fight. So with that being said, man, it's much love. We appreciate y'all for coming in, dropping, listening in. Thank you. Like the video, share the video. Head over to our YouTube, subscribe, share the channel so that help us get to 100K subscribers, or 1K. I ain't even gonna skip over that 0. Don't do me like that. We just trying to get to 1K.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a raffle for some 5s that I have in the closet. They are size 12, so you can pawn them all, resell them, give them to a boyfriend, do what you do. But with that being said, we gonna head out. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Comment down what you think about the filibuster. You think we should end it, shouldn't end it? Tell us what you think about the infrastructure plan. Do you think it's once in a generation of a lifetime type moment? Or do you think it's lackluster? Do you think it's Not I don't think it's that much. I don't think it's that great. It's some good things in it, but I don't think it's that great. But with that being said, man, we gonna catch y'all on another time. Y'all be safe. Much love. Thank you.
Peace.
Y'all be safe.